TG Geeks, episode 209, February 18th, 2019. Travelers from the 80s comic books. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely, it's trying to get warm, Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from a very overcasty gray, my life feels like a sequel, Phoenix, Arizona.
Ha! I say what you did there. Let's get on with it.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Well, this time we've got the creators of a series of graphic novels, actually. It's called The Sequels, and we're going to find out more about that in we've got three of them, three of the creators. And we got our birthday shout-outs, as always, our featured podcast of the week, and everybody's favorite feedback. In the second segment, we're going to talk about a Netflix original series that we just finished watching. And then we have our weekly reback.
Reback?
What? Weekly recap. And then our follow-up items.
Yeah,
that was a combination of a recap and feedback. A reback, yeah. There we go. Feedback.
It's a
cap.
Feed cap.
Feed cap. Anyway, we're going to get right to it.
Feed cap. Isn't that what cows use?
And this time we have a little bit of a treat for you. We've got three individuals on our line that have created a new 4-issue comic series called The Sequels. We have Norm Harper, the writer. We have Val Halvorson, the main artist. And we have Bobby Timony, a guest artist. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having us on the show.
Cool. So let's start off by asking Norm, since you're the writer, let's ask who you are and what have you done and how did you come up with the sequels, and then we'll get into the artists and
more specifics.
Yeah. Give us a little specifics. There we are.
How many cups of coffee have you had already?
Not enough, apparently. So take it away, Norm.
Yeah, I'm a writer, and Sequels will actually be my third comic. I've been writing for probably about a decade now. Comics was always my first love, but it took me a while to realize that I could move back into doing comics after trying some other things. But I came out with a graphic novel adaptation of Ricky Tikki Tavi in 2016, and we were fortunate enough that got the Eisner nominated, and then I've got a new graphic novel coming from Lion Forge in March called Half Haven, which will be my second book, and so Sequels is my third project. And it came to me basically, I live not too far away. I'm up in the San Fernando Valley, and I'm very near a lot of the E.T. filming locations.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Including there's a park that's in the movie. I don't know if you remember the scene where they've stolen the van and they like pull it up into the park.
Yeah.
And it's got like a big metal like caterpillar thing that you can climb on.
Okay.
And I recognized that caterpillar one day, and I was like, "Where do I know that from?" And finally, one day, rewatching ET, it hit me. I was like, "Oh, that's the park and everything." So I was walking around one day and just like looking at how the whole area had changed compared to the movie, and that made me think about like, well, you know, if you were Elliot, like, where would you be now? And then I thought, like, oh man, like he met an alien. Like that's insane. Like, what is his life like? He knows we're not alone in the universe, but he's like, did he ever get to tell anybody? Like what's going on with him? So that thought process led to me saying like, oh, that's a story I want to tell. But even more than just like Elliot, like what if all of these kids from all of these movies that I loved at that point in time, like where are all of them? And what if they all, you know, kind of had like an Avengers style team up? Only it went horrible. So
It always has to go horrible.
Well, that is fascinating. So this is a 4-series, and each one is about a different character. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or a different member of the team, shall we say?
Yeah, and so it all adds up into one single narrative. But the beginning of each book, you get sort of like what happened to that specific character, like whoever's turn it is to be the point of view character. You get their childhood adventure, and then you get to bridge from that childhood into adulthood when they all meet up, and then you carry through and see like how their meetup is progressing in terms of that adventure until it all kind of comes around together in the end. And no spoilers, but it's fun stuff, I hope.
Well, I would say that, you know, I've read some of the, or at least I'm looking at the covers and reading the little blurb in the press release about some of the things that they've had to do. And wow, the kinds of adventures they've had are completely like off the wall and extremely different, you know, ranging from the supernatural to some interesting hard science fiction type adventures. You know, what kind of challenges did you have to face in order to try and, you know, blend these very separate story elements into one kind of universe?
Yeah, it was difficult to find the balance on that because I wanted to you know, pay as much homage to those movies that were the inspiration for the thought process as possible. So, you know, sometimes a kid is ET and he finds, you know, an alien, but, you know, like Bastion connects with a whole different world in the Neverending Story, and, you know, things like, so I had to go like, okay, like one kid had like a way more intense adventure than everybody else, but how does that all knit together? And it took a lot of work. Issue 4, I wrote probably 12 times, like
Whoa.
page 1 rewrites, because it wasn't connecting. And Barbara and Bryant at Fanbase were so generous and helpful in trying to help me, you know, plot everything out. But I knew, I laid out, I said, like, okay, I want the adventures that you're experiencing to sort of like rise in action. So the first issue is Avery, and he has he meets a robot that is alive, sort of like, similar to like an ET adventure, but with Johnny Five from Short Circuit kind of thing. Then the next character is Gwen, and she meets an alien, which is like, you know, a step up from just a robot that's come to life. And then the third character is Russell, who defended his high school from Dracula and werewolves and things. So now you're dipping your toe into the supernatural. It's not just like life from another planet. It's life with some sort of like magical element to it. And then the fourth issue, Dakota actually does travel into a whole other magical world. So you had to keep building that adventure. I didn't want to start with the Neverending Story and then, you know, jump to Short Circuit. So once I got to issue 4, I was like, I don't know how this works at all. And finally, we did finally find it, but it took a lot of work.
That's cool. So
go ahead. No, I was going to say that, okay, so now we've got these 4 different kinds of stories. So now going to you, Val, and I guess, you know, any help that you might have offered also, Bobby, when it came to doing the artwork, Did you find that you had to kind of like maybe take a different stylistic approach with each of these different let's say the tone of the story, you know, being from sci-fi to magic? Did you take a slightly different approach with some of the artistry? And then did you do it again when you had to bring it all together?
That's an interesting question. I know as artist, I kind of had to take a page from whatever Val was doing and jump off from that. So Val provided some really great character designs to work with.
Oh, thank you.
And I worked off that. So, and my contribution, I guess, because I'm the guest artist, and I'm drawing just the flashbacks to the original adventures. And I don't know, since they happened in the 80s, the direction was, what if the flashback pages look like they're comics from the 80s?
Oh, nice.
So that's the unifying factor for the flashbacks, at least, is that they look like 1980s comics, and they've got that dot screen coloring and the yellowy paper and slightly offset colors and stuff like that. So I think it's unified visually by the old-fashioned coloring style, I guess, for the flashback pages anyway.
Okay, what about you, Val?
So pretty much what I do is I do the modern stuff, but I also do a little bit of the flashback stuff too. Pretty much what I do in the flashbacks is it's what's really happening. It's kind of just after the adventure happens, then I'll take over. So then my art kicks in, and it's obviously not an 80s style, but just kind of a more modern take. When I was doing each issue, I tried having a little bit more of a unified thing with color schemes to try and make it so, like, when you're going from robots to aliens, that kind of thing, using the same kind of coloring can help. So it's not quite as, like, going way off from one thing to the next.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else, you know, as I've seen, like, you know, some comic book artists, you know, when they do, like, say, like, I'll just use a couple of popular names, you know, like when they do a Superman, I mean, it's very bold, it's very out there, but when they switch to something, you know, like maybe like a Doctor Strange, then they kind of take on a totally different aspect to some of the illustration there to kind of help emphasize, excuse me, some of the supernatural aspect to that story. Did any of that kind of figure into what you were trying to do to maybe help set the atmosphere of the story?
I know, especially with the alien part of it, I kind of look to old sci-fi book illustrations for just kind of like the look of the planet and everything with that. There's, with the other issues, like the first one, for instance, that one's a bit more just kind of grounded. Mm-hmm. So it's not quite as much drawing from that, but the other ones get kind of crazy. So then you have something like issue 4 also, where it's just you're taking, well, I don't know how much I can say about issue 4.
No spoilers.
Without spoiling it. But
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
From like the Spielberg movies have this like shot that's like in every Spielberg shot of just like wide-eyed, slack-jawed wonder, and like most of the flashback stuff includes like a bit of that wonder and awe. So I'm trying to, like, I don't know, I try to capture something like that into the expressions on the kids' faces, that just the awe of being in this fantastic situation. It's just, you know, it's not easy to do, but I try.
Coolness. So, go ahead.
There's actually like a very specific Spielberg shot that I've been using in a lot of my stuff. What this one is, what Spielberg will do is when there's something big and like something like Jurassic Park, or Jaws or anything like that, where you have this big moment, you see the characters look at it first, like you see their reaction before you see the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to have that kind of portrayed through my art and my sections.
Sort of like a Jurassic Park moment.
Yeah, where they're in a Jeep and they're looking, you see them looking at the dinosaurs before you even see the dinosaurs.
Right.
Or like in the Goonies when they first see the pirate ship.
Oh, yes.
Very similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so we got a little bit of background on Norm and how he got into the industry. I'm a little curious, so that we can, also keep this kind of balanced. First Val and then Bobby, how did you guys get involved in working in comics?
I worked on a lot of anthology stories, mostly like horror short story anthologies, and just kind of working on pitches with other people. And this is kind of my big first project. Before that, I'm actually pretty new to comics. This is kind of my first year doing comics full time, but I've been doing comics pretty much my whole life. Before that, I was doing designing for T-shirts, that kind of thing, and just various logos, odd jobs, that kind of thing.
A lot of graphic work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Bobby?
I've been drawing comics for a really, really long time. I have this.
Define a really, really long time.
We're
I
old.
mean, you sound like you're 13. Please, define a really, really long time.
One of my earliest memories is showing my mom this Mork from Mork comic that I drew, and it was before I knew how to read and write, so I was just putting chicken scratches in the word balloons. And she pointed out to me that I had done the comic backwards, like manga style. It didn't read left to right, it read right to left, and I was like, oh, oops.
Well,
That's pretty evolved.
I have a twin brother.
That's rather evolved.
He had a big hollowed-out speaker just filled with markers and pens and stuff, and we had little school desks in our room, and we would just sit and draw comics all the time.
Wow.
And then, so years and years later, I'm working in advertising, I'm doing storyboards, and I'm getting really frustrated with my job, and my wife is like, well, what do you really want to do? I'm like, I want to draw some comics. So she signed me up for a comic class at the School of Visual Arts, and which was really nice of her to do. And I came up with a comic in that class, and then I heard that DC was going to have a webcomics imprint called Zuda. I'm like, I should try that. So I took the concept I came up with in that class, and I pitched it to DC's Zuda Comics, and I won. And I've been working in comics pretty much ever since. Although, I still do the storyboards and the other stuff, but it all started with that Zuda comic.
Cool. So we've heard how we've heard Norm came up with the story. Now I'm curious, Val and Bobby, how did you guys get attached to it? I mean, was there something about the whole 80s pastiche that made you say, ooh, this is something I would love to draw?
Yeah, pretty much. Fanbase Press came to me and was asking if I wanted to be a part of the project, and I read the script and I really loved it. Just all of these really cool, just 80s references and just all the characters involved.
And you, Bobby?
Yeah, Norm and I were friends before the comic. I drew his logo for his Karate Pet Shop, and so we had always kind of talked about working together, and we even started developing a project, which kind of fell apart. But then we were at a bar somewhere, I forget where, and he starts telling me about this idea he had, and I'm like, this sounds really cool. And then he's like, so do you know the flashback pages? I'm like, yeah, I do want to do that. So that's how I got attached.
Well, that's really cool. And Norm, something that Val actually kind of touched. She kind of hinted on something that made me wonder. So here you are. You're inspired by this little event you had. When you found the park that E.T. was filmed in. As you started to develop this story, did you find yourself really just diving head deep into all this 80s nostalgia? I mean, or did you even find yourself at some point where you had to kind of pull back because it was almost becoming like 80s overload?
There was a balance I had. Like, I kind of lived in a constant state of 80s nostalgia anyway. And like literally upstairs, I have a Lego city that is just all like I only build 80s properties, and it's like they all live together. So it's like the Ghostbusters are next to Castle Grayskull, and the G.I. Joe headquarters is there, and Kit is driving along, and like I'm always like thinking about the 80s every day.
Okay, that needs to be the new Lego movie. Okay, thank you. Just saying.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like Lord Miller, fun.
Anyway,
Right.
So when I dove into this, I had to. I really I rewatched a lot of the movies that I wanted to pay homage to, and I just I made lists of repeating elements that I would see in them, or like things that I directly wanted to call back to, and all that. And that was sort of like the preparation mode. But then when I sat down to write it, I had to be willing to just throw any of that away to construct a proper storyline for these characters, because none of these characters are so obviously any single 80s character. Like all of their adventures are built from different pieces of different movies or different elements, and then what happens to them like when the story ends is all created anew. So if I want Gwen to be in a certain place in her 40s, then I can go back and change the way I'm homaging a movie to make that part of her adventure. But so it was almost like a Lego project. It was like there's all these bricks, and I'm just building up as I go. But I had to be thoughtful of like what the final story was going to be. I couldn't just go like, oh, and do you know this reference, and do you know this reference, without it propelling the narrative in some way. So.
Cool. How long did it take you to write the story, and then how long did it take for it to be illustrated?
Once I pitched it to Fanbase, because it was an idea I had that I sort of put in the drawer while I worked on other things, and but it was always there in the back of my brain, and I was like, I really want to do this. I finally found the window, and so once I pitched it to Fanbase, it was probably 3 months, maybe a little more total. Because issue one was like super fast, and Fanbase was like, yeah, that's great. And 2 and 3 took a little more molding, and then like I said, 4 was just a constant like page 1 rewrite. Like it's not working, it's not coming together, and there were whole elements I pitched them that we ended up having to change for issue 4. And so we finally found it. But all told, it was 3 or 4 months. I was just writing the sequels straight through. Illustration, I guess we're technically not done yet, so I can't give you a total time. But we're close.
Okay. I have to ask this also for you, Norm. Being that you were writing this story, and I asked this of every person who's a writer, I ask this of, because I find this to be a very psychologically interesting question. At some point when working on this, did these characters finally start to become fully realized in your head to the point where they almost began to talk to you?
I don't know. I don't think that that's part of my process.
Okay. I'm wondering if that's because this is just a comic book series, because I know that when I talk to a lot of authors who write novels and series of novels, like we talked to an author just yesterday, and he said that, you know, he's been living in this series of books to the point where now these characters are so alive, they're like screaming at him in his head, and he's taking dictation. And I'm wondering, since now you're doing a comic book, a completely different kind of medium, I was just wondering what the writing process is for the author at this point. You know, what goes on in your head as you're trying to put this together. You know, any kind of character development, etc. So I think you sort of kind of cleared that up for me.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely are defined enough that, like, I can't ask Dakota to have a Gwen moment. Like, you know, they're very specific people. But the thing about writing comic books, at least for my process, versus when I've tried like screenplays or prose, is that you have a hard page count. Like it has to be 24 pages or 36 pages, or if you're doing a graphic novel, like 160 pages. But it has to be. Like it has to end on that, and you have to be aware of the page turns and like what's happening. What is the reader going to see when the page turns, so you don't like spoil a surprise on the right-hand page. You know, it has to go on the left-hand page, and all that has to be like pretty excessively blocked out. And so there's not a lot of room for the characters to scream at you and say, "I want to do this." When I've done screenplays and stuff like that before, sometimes I'll be like, I thought I was about to break into Act 2, but then this thing happened, and now I have to go back and restructure. But, it doesn't matter if that's page 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Like, you've got a window. And in comics, you don't have a window because, like, somebody's got to draw it, and it's got to go to print, and it's got to fit on a very specific format, template kind of thing.
Interesting.
And that does change how much... you have if you're just doing a first draft and you're like, oh, you know what, this is 2 pages over, I've got to find a way to fix it. Like, you can do that, but I really like to know exactly what's going to happen on every page before I sit down to write, because it's a 4-issue series. Every issue is the exact same number of pages, and that's pretty common in a monthly comic book. Like, if you have a subscription to a Batman comic, then with the exception of a few, like, oh, this month it's a double issue because like something big's happening, like Commissioner Gordon's going to die. Like, usually you're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay the same every month, and you're going to get the exact same number of pages until some kind of shakeup happens, like printing costs, like make DC change their mind or something. So you kind of have to know the story in that way, and it doesn't give the characters room to surprise you as much.
Interesting. I didn't know any of that. I appreciate you sharing that with me. It kind of gives me an insight into some of the challenges that comic book writers have to deal with. So, I've just heard some of the challenges that you, Norm, had to face with. So, Val and Bobby, as you're doing the illustrations for this, what were some of the surprises, some of the challenges that maybe you had to deal with? Was there any kind of unexpected moments or things that made you kind of scratch your head saying, how the heck do I illustrate that?
Kyle, do you want to take it?
Well, I think the main thing really is just some of the pages that me and Bobby are working on, we're working on the same page. So
yep,
it's kind of hard to, like, you have to make the layouts and everything and kind of make sure that everything is, like I have to make sure that I give Bobby enough room in my layouts. That's the main thing for me.
The first 2 issues were a lot easier because the flashback pages were their own separate pages. But from issue 3 and 4, they start getting sprinkled in. So it's like a panel on a page instead of a whole page.
Ooh.
Or sometimes, I think in issue 4, there's going to be like panels with both of our art in the same panel even. So it gets crazier. Yeah.
What kind of a logistic challenge is that? I mean, okay, so Val, we know that you're in Illinois. Bobby, where are you located?
North Hollywood.
Okay, so from a logistic standpoint, what's the challenge in trying to come up with artwork that is in the same panel?
Well, that's a logistic challenge we're going to have to tackle in the future because we haven't done issue 4 yet.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
We're working entirely digitally, so Val can turn in, her finished page, and we can send that file over to Bobby, and he can start drawing, directly on that digital file and just add to it. So,
if Val, if you want to even block in where some figures go, and then I'll draw my figures in that spot. We could do it that way, I guess.
We're having a planning session right now as we speak. How awesome is that?
Margaret and Brian have a plan. We're going to be okay.
Okay, well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So it's not done yet, but we know this is coming out. What is the schedule, the release schedule for this?
The first issues will be out on Comixology in February, and then we'll do one issue a month on Comixology, February, March, April, May, and then we'll have a collected trade printed available. I believe they want to release. I know it'll come out in the summer. I think San Diego Comic-Con is the goal to have that at their table for that, for Fanbase Press. If you go to fanbasepress.com, you can go ahead and pre-order the printed version. If you pre-order, you get a set of prints that are based on the movie posters we designed to be the cover of every issue. Is a movie poster done by Don Aguayo. And then the cover is actually more like a VHS box, and then we'll pull just the poster part off and do a set of art prints that all of us are going to sign. We're going to have to mail those all over the country and get the whole creative team to sign them.
Oh, sounds
and that'll
fantastic.
be the pre-order bonus for the collected trade.
That sounds
buy
fantastic.
that, and then that'll start shipping in the summertime.
That sounds fantastic. I'm really excited about this. I'm a big comic book reader myself, and I just really came to the forefront of the comics in the 70s and 80s. So, this sounds like it's going to be an absolute joy. So, with all of that, you've already said that this can be found on fanbasepress.com. People can pre-order it. Is there any other social media presence that either the sequels has or that each of you have, is in case anybody wants to follow what any of you are doing at this present time? Starting with you, Norm.
I am at that Norm Dude on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me there.
That's awesome.
Then you can also follow Fanbase Press on Twitter, and at the Sequels Comic on Twitter is a Twitter account devoted specifically to this book. So.
Coolness. Okay, so Val, what about you?
I'm on Twitter. That's at Fishmas, Fishmas, just Fishmas, like Christmas with fish. And you can find me on Instagram too. That's the same username there.
All righty then. And you, Bobby?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter as Bobby Timony, BOBBYTIMONY. And I have a website that I have with my brother that's devoted to the comics that we make together called twincomics.com.
Outstanding.
All right. Well, that is absolutely. I'm excited about this myself.
I can't wait to see this.
This is incredible, and we thank you, Norm and Val and Bobby, for being on the show this time with us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hi, this is Barbara.
And Bryant Dillon of Fanbase Press.
And you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
That was a really good interview with them. Talking about the sequels and all of that stuff and how they came
So
up
when do we
with
get
that.
the prequels?
The prequels.
The prequels will be next.
Yes.
Okay, that just
because
blew
the
my
sequels
mind.
came first.
Sequels always come first.
It's kind of like
It's like Star Wars.
It's like Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. And then they're going to wind it up, and after the sequels and.
Yeah, and then Ryan Johnson will take over the whole thing and ruin it. Oh, whoops! Did I just say that?
Did you just say that?
Oh dear. Well, we're never going to get that Star Wars interview now.
Exactly. Well, here's a few selected birthdays for February 18th through February 24th, 2019. And last week we apparently missed somebody. I think Jackson finally he had himself hidden, had his birthday hidden because
was it?
just popped up.
Oh.
I just happened to notice it this time. Jackson Stewart.
Yeah, who's
a friend
responsible for one of our
ours.
favorite horror films ever.
Yeah. And happy birthday, Jackson. On February 18th, we got Vanna White, Yoko Ono, Milos Forman, who directed Amadeus and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, I didn't know he did that one.
Oh, yeah, several other
God,
things.
that's a
oh, my
dark
God,
film.
Yeah. And John Hughes, another director. February 19th, David Mazouz.
He's
gonna
so growing up.
Oh, my God.
We just saw the latest episode with him in Gotham. We're like, I don't even recognize that kid anymore.
I know. Also, Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. And Nicholas Copernicus. And Luigi Boccherini, who was a famed composer in his days.
With a name like that, I would hope so.
Boccherini, yes. February 20th, Kurt Cobain and Charles Barkley. I sat in first class with Charles Barkley.
That's right, you did.
The row behind him. He's a huge man.
He's not one of the he was not one of the taller ones of the
No,
Phoenix Suns.
I know.
I actually sat next to the tall guy. I can't remember his name anymore, but he was a Beth on 99.9. Her.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Beth McDonald. Oh, she adored him.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
God, he was tall.
Also on February 20th, Sidney Poitier and Ansel Adams.
Oh, one of your photographic heroes.
Oh, my gosh. He was probably one of the greatest photographers of the 20th
An
century.
innovator, too.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
I mean, it's not just what he shot, but how he shot it and then developed it.
Well, he was, He
was brilliant.
He did a lot of things to further photography and the understanding of photography, understanding of light. He came up with the zone system for black and white photography.
I mean, he's one of the perfect guys who married science and art at the same time with that.
Exactly. Also on February 20th, Robert Altman, another director, a fabulous director. February 21st, Alan Rickman, who left us way
too soon.
Andres Segovia, famed
flamenco guitarist.
Classical guitarist. And Leo Delibes, another composer, and Irma Bombeck.
Formerly of Paralyzed Valley, I believe it is.
I think she lived in Paralyzed Valley, yeah. And also a friend of ours, Lisa Pratt. Happy birthday, Lisa and Tom Lynn. February 22nd, George Washington, Jerry Ryan, and Kyle MacLachlan. Blah, 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 blah.
And you haven't had any scotch.
I haven't. February 23rd, George Friedrich Handel, or Georg Friedrich Handel, as it's properly said, Majel Barrett, and Amazon Eve.
Oh.
We had Amazon Eve on the show here, about a year ago.
She is a force of nature.
I'm telling you.
She was just insane.
Like 6'6".
Oh, she's really tall, but she really is just one of the nicest people you could ever meet.
Absolutely.
And I couldn't take my eyes off of her when she was on the screen in Chimera.
Yeah.
I mean, no, because her acting is that good.
Oh, yeah, Adita. Yeah, she was great. February 24th, Steve Jobs, Abe Vigoda, Edward James almost. Yes,
Oh, boy.
almost got there.
Apologies, Edward. Sorry.
And Arrigo Boito, who was the librettist for opera composer for Giuseppe Verdi, and he also wrote his own opera. Mephistopheles was his.
That was his?
Yes.
No
Boito,
kidding.
Yes. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
The Red Legion took away our home. Dominus Gaul has stolen our light. But from the ashes, a fire team of guardians rise to...
Oh! Guardian down.
Wait. Who was that?
Titan, no jump good.
This is Happy Hour from the Tower. I'm T.
I'm Nick.
I'm Brandon.
And we're going to talk about all things Destiny. Why we play.
Why we love punching aliens in the face.
And why T's aim needs a little bit of work.
Have you got that? Say you've got it. Say something.
A podcast for players of all levels. Find Happy Hour from the Tower on iTunes, Stitcher, or at happyhourfromthetower.com. Eyes up, Guardian. Time to give up the ghost. It's Happy Hour from the Tower. First round's on us.
Go give a listen to T and his friends over at Happy Hour from the Tower, a Destiny podcast. And now it's time for a little bit of this. A little bit of the dancing droids.
I had so much fun watching them dance. Feedback. Yes, starting with episode 204, we gave a little
204.
Yeah, we gave a little birthday shout out to a friend of ours, Anthony Ecclesi. We know him from Morning After.
Yeah.
And because we gave him the birthday shout out, he simply said merci. To that, my response is notre plaisir. Then, moving on, we ran an article not long ago, coming to Netflix, Lee Bardugo's Grishaverse. Got a comment from a follower on Twitter. His name is John Smith. Know him through Keith Edwards. And he said, I started reading Six of Crows, and I'm kind of disappointed in the characters. Perfect teens versus idiot adults. Thank you for letting us know about the new series. Our pleasure. And then, regarding Dr. Zombie, Monster Family Physician number 31, we got a comment from Dr. Zombie himself.
Oh, no.
Seriously. And he said, I deserved a stoning for this one. But
was that when the
Medusa.
Medusa, yes.
Yeah. And then last...
You're stoned,
Yeah,
buddy.
you're stoned, yeah. And, not lastly, then had one of my Ben's breakdowns, there was the latest animated version of The Death of Superman. That is on DC Universe.
Not the Nicolas Cage?
No. That's the death of Superman.
The death of Superman.
I never want to see that ever resurrected. No, thank you. The documentary is interesting enough. I never want to see that movie come to light. And got a comment from Michael Fett, and he said, it's the best Superman animated movie to date, of which I would agree, and probably the best DC animated film since Flashpoint, to which I also agree. I hope this is a good sign because they become lackluster as of lately since the new 52 era began. Sad part is this film does it better than Batman vs. Superman. Well, I agree does it better, but why is it sad? I don't know. And then moving on, I had another breakdown of the first 3 episodes of season 2 of The Orville. And got a comment from Corey Nelson. She says, my husband and I love this show. Agree that it started out unsettled, but started to steer with more purpose quickly. We're in for the long haul, mission, show, whatever. And then got a comment from Michael Fett again. He said, interesting to note that the second episode was a holdover from last season. I didn't know that. It's my favorite of the 3 aired this season. Really, it's the one that I liked the least. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of the series concentrating on Ed and Kelly's relationship. I feel like it should just be left to rest. But I know we'll get back to it at some point in season 2. And just as I'm starting to feel like the show has turned a corner, it takes huge steps back. The episode with Ed captured by the Krill borrowed 2 plot points from Trek, one from Discovery, the other from the original series. The Discovery plot point was so blatant that the characters shared the same surname on both shows. Ugh! Then, the episode about the First Contact had a great opening act, but ultimately bored me. It felt like it needed a bit more time to be fully cooked.
Yep.
On that, I go agree. And then lastly, on the same topic, got a comment from a friend of ours, Matt Chesson, who people may not remember him. He directed a phenomenal short film called Focus.
Yeah.
And he left this comment on Instagram. He says, I have mixed feelings about season 2. And that is our feedback for today.
Okay. What happened?
I don't
know. My
know.
script went crazy. I lost it. Okay.
Wow.
You can leave comments on our Facebook page or our... I got lost.
Wow, you have vapor lock there, buddy.
I did. You can leave comments on our Facebook page or at our website, tggeeks.com, and you can leave a comment on each episode. If you're listening to an episode, you can leave a comment on each article, as well as on Facebook and on our YouTube episodes and anywhere else you find us, Twitter, Instagram, MySpace. Or
are we?
Are we on MySpace?
We should be.
We should be. We should have. We should have one. We should own it.
Yeah,
yes.
I think we'd we'd be the
Is
only.
it still? Can you still go there?
I think you can. I think we'd be the only podcast there if we did.
Hey, that would be great. And you can even leave us a comment on a voicemail. You can call 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. You can leave a comment and we'll play it on air. But as always, please play nice.
I'm Michelle Romano, and I love the Two Gay Geeks.
It's too bad that thing takes so long to get ramped up there.
Oh, I know. You know,
and then it goes for 42 seconds.
And then I feel like I just want to, sing along with, Bonnie Tyler. I need a hero.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, oh boy, we just finished watching Travelers.
Oh my gosh.
The third
Netflix.
season, it dropped a month and a half, 2 months ago, I think. And
we finally got
a chance to watching it. We've been so busy and backed up with so many other things we've had to take care of. Finally got to it.
Oh my God. Oh, I was not prepared for that.
No, it went places I didn't expect for it to go. Now, granted, this thing has been out for well over a month. And we're talking the entire third series dropped in one day. Yet at the same time, I don't think I necessarily want to go into spoiler territory in case anybody hasn't seen this yet.
Yeah.
Because I really recommend you take if you haven't watched any of it, start with episode 1, mainline all the way through this baby. You will not be sorry. It's one of the smarter time travel sci-fis I've ever watched.
Continuum was.
It's
oh my
much
God.
Like Continuum.
Well, it's the same people, so.
Well, yeah, essentially. Same people worked on it.
Yeah.
Same production company, still in Canada, but darker.
Oh my gosh!
Continuum was kind of light compared to this. I mean, this is a dark man's Continuum.
Well, Continuum was kind of dark in the sense that it had that dystopian future, but this one is much darker because
bleak.
This one is the dystopian future is like. We're on the verge of mankind becoming extinct.
It's trying to be. It's very topical at certain points.
Yeah,
and everything is a life-changing or species-ending event that they have to stop in order to try and save the future.
Yeah, they're trying to. Actually, it's about a computer program that sends people back to the 21st century to avert certain disasters and. Or actually it started out as one disaster, thinking that would
help,
it all. Fix the future and they would have a better future, and it didn't, so they kept sending them on missions and doing this and that and the other to make things better, and it seems like they're being thwarted at every turn. So
well, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Doctor Who in that no matter how many times you try to correct maybe something in history, time manages to find a way to still make that thing happen. I mean, it kind of sort of speaks about predestination, but we're not going to get into the philosophy of it.
I wonder if they felt like Mr. Incredible. Can you just stay saved for 1 minute?
Yeah, it's like, I'm trying to clean up the house. So it's an interesting premise in that. But in the meantime, wow, the side stories that it takes are
my gosh,
just... They're at times they're funny, at other times they're horrific.
Yeah, the interaction of the characters, the chemistry that
I love the cast,
the travelers themselves had, and then the secondary characters that the travelers interact with too were just the chemistry that they had. I mean, it was just a great cast all the way around.
It's a brilliant show that had fantastic character movement. I'd say it's equal parts story-driven, character-driven.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're so well woven and integrated together in the overall movement of each particular story that you become so invested in not just what the people are doing, but the circumstances in which they get caught up in. And I couldn't tell you the number of times we finished watching an episode and some episodes, sometimes you get like 3 or 4 in a row that end on cliffhangers.
Yep.
And it's like, oh my God, I gotta watch the next one. How dare you Canadians? That's so tricky of you.
And this was shot in Vancouver, so actually we were watching. I don't know whether it was the last episode.
It was towards the end.
It
was in the last 2 or 3.
Yeah,
we recognized some of the places.
It was like, oh my God, that's
our hotel.
That's the hotel that we stayed at.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
I recognized
the awning. Yeah,
I recognized the gas lamp district at one point.
Yeah.
There's one side that's way off on the waterfront district I recognize. So, yeah, it's amazing. And Stanley Park.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the one
A
point.
number of
I know that
places.
bridge. We were at that bridge.
Yeah, we walked across it.
We walked across it. Yeah. So it's fun to, if you've ever been to Vancouver, it's fun to watch these shows.
The North Hollywood.
Well, yeah, but also to be able to say, "Oh, I recognize that. I recognize that. I recognize that." I mean, it's always fun to kind of go on that little hunt,
Yeah.
if you will. But really, just the meat of this is the story, and the thing that really blows me away is the star of Travelers.
Yeah, exactly.
Will McCormick, is that his name?
Yeah.
Who everybody knows from Will and Grace.
Yep.
And there, it's he's very good at playing lighthearted parts, but this time he's just brooding.
Oh my gosh.
He is terribly serious, and yet you've got some of these other characters that help bring in some of the more lighter aspects, despite the fact that they're supposed to be like terribly serious themselves. Trevor.
Yes. And yes, he's supposed to be the oldest human being ever.
Yeah.
He's inhabited like 4 different hosts.
Yeah.
Full lives.
Yeah, basically.
So,
and
yeah.
yet he sometimes provides the lightest moments. It's a fascinating show.
It really is.
How do you think about how this thing ended?
Wow.
Well, even leading up to the end. I mean, they did some really drastic things even before we got to the end.
Yeah, it was like, I didn't realize that the show had not been picked up.
No, we didn't either. I didn't either.
And nobody, that had watched it prior to the first week in February knew that it was not going to be renewed because it was just announced a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, what are they doing? Oh my God, no. It was just, without giving too many things away, the things that were happening, it was like, oh my,
they were quite shocking.
Happen. Yeah.
They were quite shocking. I mean, they were taking some moves that you just can't readily, hit a little minor reset button and, happy ending.
Yeah.
And everybody picks up from where they were at the beginning of the next story. It just doesn't work like that. And this kind of a tale, it was very dark. I remember by the time it was all over, I was emotionally disturbed.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I literally shed several tears.
Yeah, there were a couple of characters I was very, very unhappy about at what happened to them.
Yeah.
But hey, guys, I got to tell you, if you haven't watched Travelers, find it. It's on Netflix. You might be able
all
to,
3 seasons.
All 3 seasons are there.
Wow.
In fact, the first 2 might be available on home video. Take a look at it, but definitely check it out. You will not be sorry. It was one heck of a ride.
Absolutely.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counsellors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
And if you are transgender, there is a specific hotline for you. In the U.S., it's 877-565-8860, and in Canada, 877-330-6366, or check out translifeline.org. Now Ben's going to give us a rundown of last week's
stories.
Posting.
Yes. On Sunday, February 2nd, we had Dr. Zombie, Monster Family Physician number 35.
February what?
February 10th.
10th. Yes.
I said 2nd, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Wow. And I'm looking at the 10. I'm looking right at it, and my brain says 2nd. Interesting.
Oh.
Okay.
And this one is 35, yes.
Yes.
39,
my
sir.
turn. Yeah. Okay. Then on Monday, February 11th, TG Geeks webcast episode number 208. Also, we ran a little press release for principal photography on satanic possession film Christina, set to begin in spring of 2019. And then Tuesday, February 12th, Random Musings, Holiday Memories, part of Jeannie's Yaps. Also, TG Geeks welcomes E.M. Knowles to the writing staff.
Yay!
On Wednesday, February 13th, 5 questions with P.J. Solarom. This is something new from Hamish Downey.
Yeah.
Also, that same day, 2G Geeks welcomes Al Sparrow to our contributing staff.
Contributioning staff.
Yeah, contribute. Forget it. And then on Thursday, the 14th, Ben's Gay breakdown of Love, Simon.
Oh my gosh, what a
lovely
film.
movie! And then Andrea had a review, a part of Andrea's angle. Netflix's Carmen Sandiego is a thief with class. Also, then had another press release for The Shelter Project lands. Wow. The Shelter Project launches new #AdoptPureLove campaign. Wow, that was a tough one to get through. And then on February the 15th, Friday, new sushi number 50.
Wow.
We're just 2 weeks away from a year.
Away from a whole year of new sushi every single week.
Morsels of news from Japan and beyond. Also, a press release about a Tarantino documentary rights, how they were rescued and restored to Wood Entertainment. And then on Saturday, the 16th, a part of Keith's Corner, Disney's Hollywood Brown Derby review, and another press release, singer Kelly Padrick releases Waiting for This video as directed by Patricia Chica. And that's what we ran for this last week, and thank God I finally got through that.
Yeah, you can see all of that at tggeeks.com. You can see the postings on Facebook, and you can leave a comment on each one of those posts if you choose. As everybody knows, we are huge independent creators, supporters of independent creators.
Not just me.
Yes, filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. You know, if you see any of independent creators at cons, at book fairs, at comic book shops, wherever, please buy their stuff. Tell people about their stuff. Buy their stuff. And if you see them at a con, please have cash for them. They don't need the overhead of the credit card fees. So please consider supporting independent creators.
Special shout out to the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News. It is by the Human Arkle, also known as Brian Weber. And we give that shout out because they republish our content from time to time. And you can find the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News by going to Twitter and searching Arkle. At Arkle, A-R-K-L-E. Oh, brother. And then there is the oh my word.
The use tube.
I was about to say the useless tube.
Useless tube.
The useless tube. Holy cow.
Oh, my.
I'm a mess today, people.
Both of us are.
Yeah. You go to youtube.com/user/Arkle Studios, all one word, in order to find the shameless cash grab. Look up Arkle Studios. It's all one word. Oh, brother. And then to have to give a couple of shout-outs to a couple of Facebook groups for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their pages. First, to Gay Geeks After Hours, big thanks to the moderators for literally saying share away. We appreciate that. And their URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours. That's all one word. And then to The Gay Geek for allowing us to share our stuff on their page as well. Their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. And special thanks go out to Jeremiah Reeves, their moderator. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And lastly, we are found on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Anchor, as well as where you find other fine podcasts. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio for a replay of this show at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays, and listen to their other content, their 24-hour internet radio station, Krypton Radio. Please rate us and review us on iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Up next week, we're going to have an interview with a director of a film that's really fascinating, Kevin O'Brien.
Kevin O'Brien.
And he is At the End of the Day is the name of his film. So stay tuned for next week. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page of things that we've talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Peace.
Cheers.